Welcome back to the channel. So today I have a new plant. This plant, actually three of them. This plant is one of the rarest plants in the world in habitat. This plant is a euphorbia, not a cactus, even though they look very similar. It comes from a different part of the world. This plant is a euphorbia abdel-curry. They come from only one island in the entire world. It's a small island off of the coast of Yemen in the Middle East. And on that small island, there's back in 1967, there was only 4 clumps of this plant left on that island. That island is called abdel-curry. So these plants are named for that island. Here's the first one. I like how they have them wrapped. You can see they have, at least this one has a small amount of root. They are gray, and 2 of these will be gray. The third one will be a different color. And they look like they are ancient. They look like more like a fossil than a living plant. Let me get the other ones out. So they come from abdel-curry Island, and all plants in captivity or in cultivation, all plants in cultivation come from an expedition that was done in 1977 by a man that snuck onto the island, saying that he was a British naval admiral, and he snuck onto the island under that disguise. He was a botanist, and he took some cuttings of this plant. So now, and that was in 1977. So now all plants that are in cultivation come from his cuttings. There are more of this plant in cultivation than there is in the wild. And then the third one is a completely different color, and I'll explain to you this one when I get it out. This one is on graft. And it is a pink variation of the natural gray. Now, every one of these pink abdel-curries come from one cutting. So back in 1999 now, in cultivation, someone had one of these gray abdel-curries. And they branch from the bottom. As you can see, this pink one's starting to branch also. They branch from the bottom and form large clumps. These things can grow quite tall. But in 1999, there was one branch that came up off of a gray abdel-curry that was pink. The person took that pink branch, cut it off, and grafted it onto a root graft. And now all the pink abdel-curries that are in the world are only in cultivation. This does not occur in the wild, and they all come from that one single cutting that was taken in 1999. No plant has ever produced another pink stem since then, since 1999. The pink variation is a lot weaker. That's why 99% of the time, if you see a pink abdel-curry, it's going to be on graft, because their roots are very weak. The gray ones can grow on their own roots. You see both these have a little bit of roots. The pink, very rarely will you have a successful plant if you try to grow it on its own rootstock. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to plant these guys up. Guess I might as well start with the pink one. You can see it was grown on a graft, and they just recently cut this off, and they got some kind of, looks like fungicide to keep it from rotting. It has a few little branches starting to grow on it, and I'm just going to plant the rootstock down into the soil. Now the soil mix that I'm using is my normal soil. It's about 80% turfus, which is a baked clay. Gives your plants a lot of aeration to help prevent root rot. I use this for all my succulents, which this is a succulent. Like I said, it's not a cactus. I use it for my cactuses also, I use it for my bonsai trees. So it's 80% turfus and about 20% compost and mulch. So I'm going to put that around. Now, the pink ones, even though they're a weaker plant on their own roots, they grow a lot faster when they're on a graft. The gray ones, sometimes you see them growing on graft also, and they will grow a lot faster if they're grafted. But they can, the gray variety, the natural variety, can grow on its own root. And so that's definitely what I want to do with these two. Now, like any euphorbia, they do have a toxic sap. If you was to cut this, if you was to cut this plant, it has a latex sap that would come out, and it is toxic. Give you skin, it would irritate your skin. If you get in your eyes, it'd be very bad. You need to wash your eyes, wash your hands. Even though I'm not going to be cutting on these plants at all today, when I'm done planting and potting these plants, I will wash my hands thoroughly, even though I don't have any sap on me, just for precaution. Now, out of all the 2,000 plus varieties of euphorbia, the Abdal curry is the only euphorbia plant that has a yellow sap instead of a white sap. And as I said, they're all toxic to some degree. The Abdal curry is believed to be one of the highest toxic saps out of all the euphorbias. So if you're cutting on this plant, please be very careful and don't get it on your skin. If you do take cuttings, you see how I'm burning my face right now, make sure you don't do that. But there's no sap on these plants. So you can see just a little tiny amount of roots. I would imagine these were taken as small cuttings off of a bigger plant, and then recently for a short period of time they were probably grown to start growing their own root system, which is good. Shows that they do want to produce their own roots. Now, I got these plants from overseas from a nursery. These plants are relatively expensive, especially the larger plants that you would purchase. The bigger they are, the more expensive they are. The pink ones are, they really start jumping up in price. This pink plant cost me almost 3 times what these two plants together cost. So there are some American growers of these plants. I believe they're all imported from Thailand and China. The ones that I saw in America were quite a bit more expensive, so I got this from one of the Asian countries. Now, how am I going to care for these guys? Very little water. They come from, like I said, a small island off of the coast of Yemen, where it is extremely hot and it is extremely dry. So for the next couple of weeks, I won't water these guys at all. Just in case I damage any of the roots, planting them, in case they were damaged at all. in transit to my location. I'll give them at least a week, probably 2 weeks to heal if those roots got damaged at all, so they can callus over so the water doesn't encourage root rot. After that, I'll water them about once a month during the growing season. So in my area, the growing season would be about mid-April. I could start watering them, and I'll water them once a month through the beginning of October. October 1st, I'll stop watering them, and I will not water these euphorbias at all during the wintertime. Most cactuses and most euphorbias don't need any water during the wintertime. Some can take a little bit of water. These guys do not water them at all. If you water an Abdel curry during the wintertime, during the dormant period, they will die. As far as growth, I can expect to get, once they develop their roots again, so probably not till next summer, I can expect to get about 2 to 3 inches of growth per year, at least on the two that are on their own rootstock. The pink one, being on a graft, I might be able to get more growth per year out of it because of the graft. I really can't tell so much. Well, let me hear a little bit on this pink one. You see how the top of it is a little bit lighter, brighter pink than down below. So that would have been this most recent year's growth. And on the gray ones, when they grow, it might be a little bit more of a green color towards the top of this year's growth, and then the following years that would darken more into this gray color. It won't be a green like this, but you might notice a little bit more of a green hint, and then over time it'd be more and more gray. Now this gray is not a powder like some euphorbias or cacti. It's more of like it looks more like a wax, but it's actually a part of the plant. It doesn't rub off. It just really makes the plant look ancient. Like I said, more like a dinosaur fossil than a living plant like this bottom here graft. So that's what I have for you today. If you have any questions about this plant or other plants, leave me a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you guys. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe so you can see how these guys develop over the coming years. These guys are a slow growing plant. Like I said, there's many more of these in cultivation than there is in the wild. So a plant like this, it's a great thing for us to, if we have the ability to keep these guys alive, because nobody else can get to the island because of what's going on over there in Yemen right now. So these guys could go extinct in the coming years in nature and habitat. So if we keep these alive in cultivation, one day we might be able to reintroduce them. So please subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment down below, and I'll see you in the next video.